You are listening to the Jumper Cable Records podcast, where together we discover new and emerging artists and learn from industry professionals. I'm your host, Kiara Davies. Before we get started here today, I do want to give a great big virtual hug and shout out to Apple Podcast listener JRUWS. I don't know who you are. That makes me feel like the Princess Bride when they're like the ROUSs, you know. Anyway, so JRUWS for leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. JRUWS wrote, "Absolutely love this podcast. Great hosts, guests, topics, and live performances." So JRUWS. I don't know if I'm saying any of that right. I don't know if it spells something, but we thank you so much for taking the time to let us know your thoughts and for sharing the love. We love you right back. So, but I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. Whether you're in the Jumper Cable Records family or new to the family, welcome. Now, I am eager to kick this episode off. Today's guest is a Chicago native, folk Americana singer-songwriter, citizen of the world, truly a sound for souls across the universe. And he's a great listener, honestly. So let me tell you about Trace Jory.
Hello, guys. How we doing?
Yeah, welcome.
Heck yeah.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Absolutely. I'm very excited.
I am so excited. I feel like this was just kind of like an inevitable hangout because Dallin and I are definitely fans of your music.
Thank you.
But I'd like to consider you our friend as well.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I'm excited for you all to meet our friend Trace. But we actually met just a couple months ago. It feels like longer, but it was just a couple months back. You had a cameo appearance at the Bowery Vaults. It was actually another good friend of ours, Claire Kelly, was playing a show there, and you came up on stage and you played a song that you two co-wrote, which I would love to talk about because it's absolutely gorgeous, but I'm like kind of crossing my fingers for like a release, but soon. Yeah.
For that song?
Yeah.
I'm very much crossing my fingers as well. So that one will probably be towards the end of the year, if not early next year.
Okay.
Because I was talking with Claire and I was like, because I love it
it's
so
gorgeous.
much. And I was like, what do you think? And she's doing a lot of her own stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so she kept just being like, okay, like, you know, it'll come, right? And so I'm like, okay, you're right. So I think she's going to focus on her solo stuff. And then when that is all done, then we're going to team up, get that recorded, and then get that out as soon as possible.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep it under wraps because you all need to just like wait and see. It's beautiful. But so you did this song on stage and we loved it so much. And so we connected with you after the show, and we can kind of fill in everything in between in just a little bit. How would you feel about a little rapid fire round just to warm us up?
I love it. I'm all about it.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, let's like stretch it out, like warm up. So I actually asked this question to a guest that we had a couple episodes back, but I love the answers to this. And I feel like you've done a fair amount of traveling around the world. So I want to know, what is one city that will always hold a special place in your heart?
Definitely Bilbao, Spain. That's where it's where I studied abroad for 6 months back in college. And my buddy Nick and I both went there. We're like, what the hell is Bilbao? We've never heard of it. But we got there, and it's right on the northern coast of Spain, and it is the most beautiful place ever. It will always hold a special place in my heart, for sure.
That is so cool. So, tell us what the vibe is. What's the atmosphere, the terrain?
It's like San Diego, if you will, if anybody out there has been to San Diego, but more mountainous. So we lived 5 minutes away from the beach, and on either side, there was like a mountain that you could kind of like walk up on, and it was just incredible. And like, it's very, very slow paced there. It's a lot of older people and families, and it's very, very family oriented, and it's beautiful there. And you can drink outside, and there's bars right next to playgrounds. So it's very community based and slow and beautiful.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So it's slow.
Yeah.
very easygoing? Is it a pretty small town?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So there's like a couple different, well, so Bilbao is bigger, but where we were specifically was off the Bidezabal train stop. And so there's probably like 15 train stops that led all the way to downtown Bilbao, which is where Deusto was, which is the college that we studied in, right across the river from the Guggenheim Museum, apparently.
Nice.
And it was cool.
Apparently.
Yeah. We used to look like just sit on the front steps of the school and look out, and just this big, beautiful, massive Guggenheim Museum was out there. So
that is so cool.
It was so cool. It's the most beautiful city, and I'd highly recommend anyone to go there at some point in life. And I also would love to own a house there at some point too. So
okay,
yes,
all right,
that's
gonna happen.
Yeah, right.
You said it here today.
To the universe.
Exactly. Well, I've never been to Spain, and I think I just hear the best things. So that is gonna go on my bucket list now for sure.
Highly recommend it.
Very cool.
Yep.
All right, next question. Okay. That was great. If you had to write a jingle about deodorant,
okay, I like it.
Which one of these 3 artists or bands would you collaborate with? Leon Bridges, Jack Johnson, or Harry Styles?
That's so difficult. The first two, I love Harry Styles. He's awesome, but he's not even in the. Jack Johnson and Leon Bridges are 2 huge influences. I'm actually talking about doing a cover with of River with my buddy. He and I are doing a cover EP, and but probably Jack Johnson because I think he and My Chemical Romance, if I'm being honest, were the 2 people that got me into music back in the day.
I'm not laughing at the facts.
No, I know.
I'm laughing at the combination. I love My Chem. Right. Come on, look. I think we're the same. Favorite. We're like the same age. Yeah. Are you 1990, baby?
90. Yeah.
Oh, me too.
Right.
So no. Yeah. So
32.
I love both of them. Like Brushfire Fairy Tales is one of my favorite albums of all time.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yep.
Very cool. So Jack Johnson.
Probably, so to answer your question, probably Jack Johnson, I would say. Because I feel like we could write a nice, like, when your mind is a mess, sort of, kind of like awesome deodorant jingle.
Yeah, I'm like, pause. He's going to write a jingle right now. I can hear it. It's just like very like light and like... Yeah. The uke comes in, and I like that. Exactly. Leon Bridges, I saw yesterday on the webs that Leon Bridges was at Robert's Western World like last week.
Really?
I know, my mind was blown.
Yeah.
Just off Broadway. Yeah. Anyway,
I wish I was there.
Him.
Absolutely, he's so good.
Yeah.
One of those.
I agree.
Yeah, right? One of those voices that like just
it's timeless.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but
so Jack Johnson and then Leon
and then Harry Styles. I had to put Harry Styles in there.
No shade on Harry though.
He's good.
He's incredible. Absolutely.
Very relevant. Very poppy. Yeah. So okay, I like that. All right, you're doing great with this. This is the last question.
Okay.
And our son, who you've met, and he loved you.
Jonah's the man.
So he loves to watch these videos on YouTube. It's just a rolling list of like would you rathers. And just last night, actually, I was over here. I was listening to this would you rather YouTube video, and there was this pretty tough question. It was a version of this question, so I want to pose it to you. Okay, you ready for it? Would you rather? I'm like, this is the biggest question in the world. No.
Of your life. Yes. Here we go.
Well,
deal or no deal?
Would you rather lose all your memories or your ability to hear?
Oh man, that's difficult.
As a musician, right?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I would say, lose all my memories, because hearing is such a like of all the senses, that and smell, which is directly linked to memory, right?
Yes.
But yeah, there's been some times in life that I wish, I don't know, like I don't regret anything, but it's almost like if I could have a blank slate, could I just not remember anything ever again?
Yep.
Ever again?
Yep.
Ooh, no, probably hearing. In fact, then. I was gonna say like start like a blank slate, and then you know what I mean. But no, I think.
Well, I mean like memories. Let's say like you wake up tomorrow. I think it would just be memories, so it would be a blank slate. Yeah. Yeah.
But then I'm saying, like, going forward, like, would I remember anything, or would it be like a blank slate?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm.
So how about this?
Now
right?
I'm like,
how
that's a great
this?
question.
If it's a blank slate from here on out, like at the end of life, I make big life decisions based on like what's going to make a better story, like at the end of life. So I think that's why, which for better or for worse, you know. But so I think, yeah, I would love, like at the end of life, I want to just have like 4 books full of really good stories and memories and stuff. Like so my kids can be like, "You did what, Dad? Like, why?" Or "That's really cool."
Yeah.
One of the two. So yeah,
that's a tough. Yeah, that's a tough.
That's
one.
Difficult though.
Yeah,
I'm probably gonna be thinking on that like even tonight at work. Be like, "What would I do?
What would I do?" Luckily, we don't actually have to know, but yeah, that's great rough. That is rough. Yeah. Well, fantastic job.
Thank you.
Applause.
Thank you.
I do want to switch gears here because I know our listeners and I both are super eager to learn your story, the Trace Jory story.
I like that. I like that.
Okay, but can you
That's the
start
name of my
us
next
off?
album, in fact, actually.
Trace Jory story.
Trace Jory story.
The sequel to Trace Story. Because
exactly.
There we go. Well, can you start off actually by sharing who Trace Jory is, where you grew up, your journey coming to Nashville, just kind of like a quick 700-page autobiography.
Easy.
So,
Easy enough. Yeah. Yes. So I'm 32. I've been living here in Nashville for a year and a half. I also, for what it's worth, I got my master's in therapy and psychology that I don't use currently. My parents would really like me to use.
You do, though. This is why you're a great listener.
Yeah. Thank you.
Go.
Thank you. Yoga teacher and an actor as well. I would love to be in one major motion picture at some point. I think would be really cool. I've only done small commercials at this point. So.
Whoa.
Yeah. But yeah, so I started playing music when I was 16. My parents, I think what I guess kind of prompted it, parents got divorced when I was 16. I love them. They're both very, very happy now in other relationships. And I was actually diagnosed with mouth cancer when I was around that age too, which is pretty life altering, if you will. And
yeah, that's really young.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so those two things, I think that's probably what got me into MCR, was because like they're so emo, and I was very emo at that point, you know. So it was at that time that I started writing poetry. That was really dark, actually. My mom found some of my poetry, and she's like, "Honey, I'm worried about you." Aww. And it was like, bullet in my gun, you know, whatever. And I'm like, "No, Mom, like this is just like what these bands do, you know."
Feeling the feelings.
Yeah, exactly. So I eased her mind, and so at that time started writing poetry, started seeing a therapist for the first time, which shout out to Rose because she's a sweetheart. She's amazing.
That's great.
And so you know those two life kind of thing, and then my dad got me a guitar for my 16th birthday or 17th, one of the two. The Washburn that I still have today. Actually.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
cool.
It's been with me for a minute.
That's really sweet. Member of the family.
Yeah, exactly. And so we, so those two life events. Obviously, I'm a therapist now, and I play music now. So I think everything happens for a reason, and that's sort of those big kind of monumental things happening in that time frame. Yeah. I think really shaped me to be here now, and so.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. That's really amazing. Well, so you've released several singles throughout the years. You've just been writing ever since. It sounds like you have many co-writes, many features on other artists' songs. But you did have an album come out in 2021, like I mentioned just a minute ago, a self-titled album, Trace Jory. Mm-hmm. Can you share with us some of your main inspirations? And you may have already started talking about that, but your influences behind that specific album. Was it part of that like upbringing? And
yeah, that's a great question. Not really, no. And it's fun because no one's really ever asked me about this stuff. So I'm like, oh yeah. So that album was really inspired. So it's my goal to try and infuse acoustic and electronic sounds. And, and really kind of try and like mold those together. Like if Skrillex meets Jack Johnson, right? Like how can that, or more like Illenium, I guess. Mm-hmm. He's a big inspiration electronic wise. But so that was the kind of essence for the album. And I did everything for the album, mixed, mastered, produced. all the instruments,
Awesome.
and not to say as like a toot my own horn, but like when I go back and listen, I'm like, oh yeah, you can definitely tell that I made that in my bedroom, I think. But it's good because it's like I've learned like with this new EP or album that I'm working on, so many things that I've learned from it. So I'm really excited to use what I learned and to make this next one even better. But yeah, so cool. Acoustic, electronic, and then Leif Vollebeck, who's a Canadian artist. He really inspired Awake the Giant, or I guess just the space in that song. And I love his music, and so I'm thankful to him for that inspiration. When he inspired that song and I wrote that song, I had just gotten out of the first, I guess, kind of dark period of life, if you will, or kind of funk or depression, however you want to say it. And when I wrote that song, I just remember breaking down because it was like, okay, all that shit wasn't for nothing. It's like I was able to turn it into this probably my favorite song to date. And so it felt really good to have that finished, product. And song and that's the one that you guys made the video for at Six and Peabody as well.
So exciting.
Yeah, so it was really cool. So that Awake the Giant especially, but all those songs are not so much about kind of the like what happened earlier in life, but more so about the last couple of years and like going through that funk and coming out of it and what that was like, and love a little bit and stuff like that.
That must have been so cathartic, and just to like see a body of work come to life in front of you, and just like you were saying, just like see something beautiful come out of something that felt so broken. That's super cool.
It was that's the perfect word for it. It was very, very cathartic, and I just remember that night being like, okay, yes. It was all for something,
Yeah, no, as you're speaking, I'm imagining you're writing this stuff. It's all inside. And when you were done recording, it was like out of you. It was this other person, this other form outside of you now.
Very much so.
Very cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, so you have obviously been in many different creative spaces, many different types of terrain, mentally, physically, emotionally. Yeah. You've allowed yourself to learn and embrace the sounds and the culture and the inspirations from each place you've been, each experience you've had. What might you say has been the biggest change you've seen in your own music, like your songwriting or even your style? What do you think has changed the most since moving back to Nashville?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say since moving back here, so again, last year I told myself after the first funk, I was like, you're never going to do that again, Trace. We're not going to go there. But literally all of last year was just that. And so I moved here to make music with my buddy. And we were on like a 3-month hot streak. I think we wrote probably like 50 to 60 songs. And it was awesome. Nice. And then we had kind of had a falling out. And so that's when I moved into my own place. And that's when another funk kind of set in. And so I think to answer your question, what's kind of changed is really not avoiding those feelings, but really sitting with them, and again turning that into more honest music. So that, and then I would say also just kind of finding new registers with my voice too, which I love. That's one of my favorite things in life. Like any place I go, like in San Diego, for instance, Riff's Yoga Studio, shout out Steve. He would let me go in there at night, and he would it was just a big empty room. And if you heard me, you would think someone was maybe dying in there. But I was just like trying to find these different notes. And so any place I go, I try and find a big empty room that I can just belt and try and find new parts of my voice. So that is also what has happened with this new album. Has been finding a couple different things, whether it's the kind of bass, which these allergies are kicking my ass today. So
I know.
If my voice seems very low, it's not usually like this, but the lows and then a little bit higher highs as well. I just sent a new song to my mom, and she's like, "Who's that singing on there?" I was like, "That's me, Mom," and she's like, "No way, it sounds like someone else." So yeah, that's
really cool.
Yeah, that's probably been it.
I do have to say, the other day I just had like my Spotify like on a shuffle, and I've listened to your music so much, but it was just, I don't even remember what station I was on. I was listening to something else. One of your songs came on and I was like, man, this is such a good song. Like, I don't think I'd heard it yet. I was like, this is such a good song. It sounds like of Monsters and Men. Like, is this new? And so I looked at it and it was like Trace Jory. And I went, whoa, dude. So I think you have this, whatever you're doing, you're doing it right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bottom line is, it stopped me as I was driving. I went, whoa, who is this?
That means a lot. Thank you.
Incredible. But you started talking about this new album. Yeah. Can you tell us more about the music you're making now? So that this is, you've changed kind of the limits. You've stretched your boundaries and, just gone to the next level with your voice. Can you tell us more about the music you're making now and what you do have in the works?
Yes, absolutely. So, Smoke is the single that you guys helped me shoot, obviously, which was amazing. It was so fun. And it turned out exactly how I saw it in my head, which is a really cool experience. Because so often, especially with like getting songs produced, like I'll tell them the ideas and I get it back and I'm like, nope, not it at all, Mm-hmm. But so I'm very excited for Smoke and the video that's coming out a week from tomorrow. So that one I wrote with Claire, and that one was cool. I brought probably 75% of it, maybe. And if I'm wrong, Claire, correct me. But to her, and then she was like, "Oh my God, this is really cool." And then she helped me get to that 100 mark, and then added harmonies. And she's got a belting part on there that gives me goosebumps every time. And so that is the first song that we're gonna do. I'm really excited for that. So yeah, this new album, it's more so about love, if you will, or lost love. And so I'm excited for that. Like I have, I'm sure like many artists, I have so many songs in the bank, but like, I'm like, I don't want to go back to those. Like every time I revisit them, I'm like, totally, yeah. I'm like, it's not fun. It's not inspiring to me. Yeah. So,
what do I want to include on this? Yeah.
Album absolutely. Absolutely. So there was 5 or 6, and I'm blanking on a couple of them, but those are the freshest ones that I've done. And so I'm really excited to release all of them. And also, to kind of what I was saying before, I got new speakers, I got a new microphone, I got a new MIDI keyboard, and I'm really, because I feel like my producing and my engineering, thankfully, has gotten a little bit better. So cool. I hope that's evidence on this new album. And so with Smoke, same kind of thing. I was able to do everything on the song besides keys and piano. My buddy Taylor Took. Taylor, you're the man if you're listening.
What's up, Taylor?
What's up, Taylor? He did keys and piano, and they sound phenomenal. And he's a great musician. And so he hopped in for that. And then I should say my buddy Luke Zavada out west. What up, Luke? He helped me co-mix that and kind of co-produce it. And then with Claire. So, but with that one, and then my buddy Wilson Harwood, also an amazing musician, mastered it. So sweet. So yeah, I take it back. I didn't do everything on there, but it's nice though to have found a community of people to help out with.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we are so pumped for Smoke to come out. That comes out in just a week. So when you all are listening, just a few days. Wow, Trace, you've navigated quite the road. It sounds like. Mm-hmm. We're super excited for everything you have on the horizon. We're glad you've made it here back to Tennessee and that you have this new body of work that you're sorting through. Yeah. But as I sat here and talked with you, I feel like such an air of resilience in it, like positively, like of strength through adversity, and just living your life. Being yourself. You have so many messages to share with the world. So we thank you for sharing that through your art and your music.
Absolutely.
Before we wrap up, though, would you be willing to share with us just one of those messages? Maybe a piece of advice that you've picked up along the way that has helped you in your journey to where you are as an artist now?
I would say, I guess, 2 things. One, which I have not taken this advice, but just sit with whatever you're going through, don't try and numb it. I numbed it for 11 months straight last year, and did nothing, after I got out of that. I was like, oh yeah, I'm still right where I was, and just a whole lot less money, And so just sit with it and just be with it and just know that it's not all for nothing. Like whatever, we are going through, it's like if we didn't go through anything in life, we'd be just these boring, like surface people kind of walking around. But it's like, it's that shit that you go through that really makes you multidimensional and shapes your personality into kind of being who you are. Right. Yeah. So that, and, it's weird, being like a dude and a white dude at that, just like, I think a lot of the times I'm like, oh, I shouldn't, complain. Like, there's so much going for me, but it's like, no matter who we are, your problems are your problems, and they're just as serious as, as everyone else's, so, get help if you need help, and talk and reach out, and, don't do what I do and what I did and was in solitude for a while, but definitely reach out to the community, to your community, and don't be afraid to ask for help. So,
that is huge. That is so important. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
All right, Trace, can you give us the handles? Where can we follow you? Where can our listeners connect with you? Where can we see you play live?
Absolutely. The handles. Everything is under Trace Jory. Trace like the verb, I always say, and then Jory like Jory. Everything, Instagram and Facebook, and not TikTok. I should get a TikTok, but I don't have a TikTok. Not on Snapchat because there's just too much. But on all the music streaming platforms. And and so I'm playing a show in St. Louis next month. My buddy, shout out Happy Streets CrossFit. My buddy's at CrossFit gym. I'm excited for that. And so that's the show, the only show that's I have next month. But I will definitely keep everyone posted on local shows and other events that I have coming up.
That's very cool. Can I take a moment to just talk about that? So I saw that you were in St. Louis for that.
Yeah. You
do like an acoustic set during a yoga session?
Yeah.
And you were a yoga teacher, which
correct.
Instructor. I didn't even know that till the beginning of this episode. Mm-hmm. That is very cool. Can you kind of like tell our listeners like what that setup is like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started doing it again in San Diego at Riff Studios, and it's one of my favorite things to do, because even though I love singing, I mostly just play instrumental for those yoga classes, and it's in the likes of Trevor Hall and Xavier Rudd, and just very, very sort of what I hope to do is create uplifting sort of music for these yoga classes, right? And so it's sweet. So I've been doing it for years. I did it in Boulder for a little bit, but I did loop pedal there, which is pretty
that's
cool.
A great place to do that. Boulder.
Absolutely.
Yep, we know that.
Right?
That's great.
Yeah, and the at Core Power, I was doing a lot, and shout out to them because they were amazing.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's just fun. It's an hour long, and a lot of people are like, the first time I did it at Shakti Yoga here, and they're awesome as well. But I remember the first time they were like, just don't play Wagon Wheel, just please don't play like country. And I'm like, guys, trust me, like just wait. And I did the acoustic kind of thing throughout, and they're like, that was amazing, And it's my goal, like with music, like music and yoga can be so powerful. And when there's shitty music in yoga classes, it drives me crazy, because I'm like, this can be such a good space to like release, trauma and just like all this different stuff, and so it's like, and I so when I was teaching yoga, I tried to get a really good playlist going, and it's my goal to like, if you're crying at the end, that's probably a good thing, just like, or at least like that sort of release, or if you're laughing, it's like, I love to, yoga can be such a space where you can really release and feel all the things. And so whether I'm teaching and have a playlist, or I'm playing live music for a yoga class, that's definitely my goal, is to create that space where people can really feel. And that's how it was afterwards at Happy Streets. I had a couple of people being like, I was in tears, and I'm like, good, and they're like, yes,
great.
And I was like, awesome.
It was productive. In massage we always called it that, like, productive pain, where some people are like, that's a little hard, and you're like, no, it's productive pain. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
No, but
there's a point to it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That is so cool. So if you're in the St. Louis area, Happy Streets CrossFit.
Happy Streets CrossFit, yep.
If you're anywhere in the U.S., like, and you haven't thought about these acoustic sessions, reach out to your local artist. I think this is the coolest thing. And I think that's so fun. Hilarious that at Shakti they were like, don't play Wagon Wheel, because anyone who's outside of Nashville listening, that's kind of like a running joke that everybody covers Wagon Wheel at every public event ever. And so that the fact that they were like a little shell shocked means like maybe someone tried to do that during yoga.
Absolutely.
But that is very cool. Thanks for sharing all that with us. Thank you for taking the time to be here, Trace. We're so grateful for your candor and just for being a beacon of light in this industry, in the music world. Thank you all again for listening to the Jumper Cable Records podcast. You've just discovered Nashville-based, Chicago native singer-songwriter Trace Jory. Please go follow him on Instagram at Trace Jory. That's TraceJory. Look out for his upcoming single, Smoke. It comes out on the 2nd. Okay, I just want to make sure that I got that. I'm like, where are we in the world? But yeah, and look out for the music video, because we worked on that and we are so pumped for that to come out. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to leave us a rating and a review so we can reach more music lovers like you, like me, like all three of us in this room.
Absolutely.
We love you guys, and don't touch that dial just yet. You don't want to miss an acoustic exclusive by Trace. Keep listening.
Heck yeah.
Smoke, don't care who lights it. It don't linger just the same. Ain't no telling who's to blame. They got them both yelling for a change. Yeah, the song don't care who writes it, as long as someone is carrying the flame. Darling, the hope will still remain throughout all these numbered days. 'Cause if it's love that still ignites you, oh, and shoots fire through your bones, well then all I'm asking is for one more chance to make this house a home.